Shalom, shalom. This week's Shabbos is a big one. Not only is it Chanukka in Parshat Miketz, but it will be Rosh Chodesh Tevet. So there's so much to talk about, and I hope to show you how they all connect, not just because they come out at the same time, but conceptually. So let's start with Chanukka. Chanukka, when we light the Chanukkiah, we sing the Ma'oz Tzor. Ma'oz Tzor talks about, of course, how the Hashmonaim defeated the Greek army and they were so few and they battled against a huge army and they won. And this is a miracle. And we commemorate this miracle. But in the Ma'oz Tzor, we also talk about the other exiles. There are four exiles that we talk about, main exiles that we talk about of the Jewish people, but they all stem from the prototypical first exile, and that is that of Egypt and Mitzrayim. And that's how it connects to our Parsha. Now let's look the way that our forefathers, the 12 tribes and their families, ended up going to Egypt in the first place, let's not forget, was because of their sin'ah. It says in the pasuk, their hatred of Yosef. And because of that, they threw him in the pit and he got sold down as a slave. And God was with Yosef. And the reason why God was with Yosef was because he remained true to his identity. He always thought of his father's values and what was right. Tzedek, he's called Yosef HaTzadik because he always did what was right. He yearned to return home to his father and his homeland, and he never forgot that. And he remained true to God and to his fathers and the ideas and concepts and everything that his Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, where he came from, all of the values that they held on to so tight, he held on to as well. And because of that, God granted him success. And that when there was a famine, the brothers came down, he was able to say, come live here. He gave them the land of Goshen. They settled with their families and they were able to live separately, not needing anything. And they ended up being prosperous in a time where it was difficult for everybody else. They ended up being blessed because at that point in time, they were all remaining true to the value system, to doing what's just and right, and that they came together finally, the 12 brothers, and that they even declared to their father Yaakov, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, their unity, that God, our God is one. We all come together. We all are unified. And so God gave them success. But what happened was that after Yaakov died, the brothers came to Yosef and they begged for their life. And Yosef was so upset and torn up about this. He was devastated. Why was he so devastated? Because he saw that the brothers really didn't think that they were now cohesive. They were now brothers who loved each other and would support each other. He saw that maybe he wasn't holding a grudge, but they didn't detect that. And usually, what happens, I talk about this psychological concept all the time, is when people themselves can't, they're still holding on to something, they think that the other person is. So he knew that they were still holding on to some harboring some negative emotions towards Yosef, and that they didn't let it go, and that it would just if it after all those years of him supporting them and giving them everything and saying all the right things, if that didn't do it, he knew that was a bad sign. And he passed away, and the brothers lived there. And slowly but surely, they, when the generations, when all the 12 tribes died, they forgot their values. They forgot how to connect to God. And we see that how, because at the end of Bereshit, when that happens and Yosef dies, that's the end of the first Sefer, it's the end of the first book, and we go straight into Shemot. Going straight into Shemot, it talks about the exile of Egypt, and it goes right into Elah Shemot. These are the names, and it's trying to tell us that they had forgotten. They forgotten their names. They forgotten who they were, what they were supposed to represent. And it talks through the Pasukim, you see that they forgot how to connect to God, that they couldn't even pray to get out of their servitude, that it took them so long just to, by Yitzhak, just to cry out. They forgot how to do that, how to connect to God and what was important. And that's why the suffering had gotten so bad for them. And this is what happens in all the exiles, is when we as brothers don't feel united. And we're living outside the land of Israel and we forget how to really connect to God. I'm not saying go to shul and daven 3 times a day, because you're reading the proper prayers. I mean, really connect to God and connect to God through other people by seeing God in them and by feeling that there is a connection for you to the next person because of the bigger picture. And that's what causes more hatred and more separation. And then we get into bad stories because when we're good, we prosper. But when we forget who we are and we forget God, we take him out of the picture, there's nothing left. And we suffer from that. So I think that now we're coming to Rosh Chodesh Tevet, when we're already lighting more than half of the light in the Chanukka of lighting the candles. The light is getting stronger. And in order to make this Rosh Chodesh a new start, a new beginning, one to get us out of the exile, we have to understand that we have to be unified people, and that being unified, connecting to God, doing what is right, that's the only way to get us out of exile. And not only get us out of exile, but by doing this, we're shining our light bright out into the world. And also, I just want to mention this beautiful idea that in the Beit HaMikdash, the menorah was not like the Chanukka we light. It was 3 branches of 3 on each side and the shamash in the middle. And why I want to mention is because we're going to Shabbos. So just like the week where um, we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're getting ready to Shabbat, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday that came after Shabbat, they surround the Shabbat day. They're the 3 days before and the 3 days after. And that our whole week is bending towards the light of Shabbat, that we live our days of Chol, where we do things, where we're active, where hopefully we're trying to achieve a goal, that on the Shabbat day, that's a gift from God, we can rest and enjoy and be close to our family and to God, which is the most valuable thing that we have. So, with that, I wish you all that you can hopefully um, get closer with your loved ones, find a connection to God, and have a wonderful, warm, peaceful Shabbat, Hanukkah, and hopefully a new month, new beginning, and inching us out of this exile to a better time where there is no suffering. Shabbat shalom.